Hi, and thank you for joining us. U.S. Central Command says it began launching self-defense strikes this evening in response to Iran's shootdown of a U.S. military helicopter patrolling the Strait of Hormuz. The downing happened Monday off the coast of Oman. Right now, it's not clear if the shooting was deliberate. CENTCOM calls their latest actions tonight, quote, a proportional response to unjustified Iranian aggression. The Pentagon says the two pilots in the Apache helicopter were not injured. The cause is under investigation. In a first for the U.S. military, officials told CBS News the two crew members were rescued by a sea drone similar to the one in this video. This all puts more pressure on an already fragile ceasefire that was tested when Iran and Israel traded strikes on Sunday and Monday. We have CBS News team coverage. CBS News Pentagon reporter Eleanor Watson is in our Washington bureau, and CBS News correspondent Natalie Brand is at the White House. Ellie, let's start with you. What more do we know about these strikes?
U.S. Central Command, in a statement, Lindsay, said that the military began striking in retaliation for that Apache helicopter downing today at 5 p.m. Eastern. Military officials tell me that these self-defense strikes, they're calling them, are larger than the previous ones we've seen, but are a proportional response to this specific incident. President Trump earlier today did vow a response. He said that Iranian forces attacked the helicopter, bringing it down. President Trump in the past has been willing to kind of do what appears to be tit-for-tat strikes against Iran to preserve the ceasefire, but barely to keep these negotiations with Iran to bring the war to an end sometime soon.
What about the pilots and the rescue? Officials say, again, this was the first time a drone was used for a water rescue.
That's right. U.S. officials tell us that the pilots were shot down by an Iranian drone. The helicopter was down by an Iranian drone. A sea drone used by the U.S. Navy found the pilots, transported them to another area in the water where a different helicopter transported them to shore for further care. President Trump today said that both pilots are safe and uninjured. We're told the specific drone was a Saronic drone that the Navy started using in the Middle East back in March. It is remarkable that this is the first time during a U.S. military operation a drone has carried out this type of mission, but it's also notable, Lindsay, that the Strait of Hormuz is still dangerous, that this drone had to carry out the mission because Iran is threatening ships with drones and missiles.
Okay. Eleanor Watson, we know you will stay on top of the developments. Keep us posted. Let's talk about the politics of it all with CBS News correspondent Natalie Brand. So, Natalie, what is the president saying about these new strikes?
Hi, Lindsay. Well, no official comment yet from the White House, but President Trump did have a brief phone call with ABC News' Jonathan Karl. And Karl reports that the president told him that these would be very powerful and very strong, a very powerful and very strong response. That's what this one is. This comes hours after he had promised on social media earlier today that the U.S. would respond after learning that it was an Iranian drone that, in fact, took out the Apache helicopter. And fortunately, as you were discussing, those two service members are okay. Interesting to note that just last week, the president was asked what would be his red line or tipping point to resume military operations in Iran, and he suggested that it would be a service member that would have to be killed. So in this situation, we have two service members who are said to be okay. A U.S. official also earlier said it wasn't clear whether this was a deliberate attack, but without question, an escalation, and a lot remains to be seen about what exactly happens next.
And what does this mean for a potential deal? The president has said a deal is 2 or 3 days away. I mean, remember in March, he was saying the war would only be 4 or 5 weeks, and here we are several months later.
Yeah, he's given a lot of different statements about a timeline, but in recent days, he has suggested that progress, was being made. And just last night, while returning back to the White House, he told reporters traveling with him that he thought this initial agreement could be just a few days away. Unclear at this point how this escalation impacts those larger negotiations. And it's also important to note, Lindsay, as we've been talking about, this initial agreement would just be a starting point to have those more detailed discussions about Iran's nuclear program, which is the stated reason that the U.S. launched that initial military operation.
Okay, Natalie Brand, thank you.